Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Adobe Creative Educator live stream show. I'm streaming here live from San Francisco, and we hope that everyone is staying safe and healthy at home. Today, we have a very special guest with us today who's an Adobe education leader and is joining us from Louisville, so I'll have her introduce herself in a moment. But if you're just joining in, please feel free to post in the chat where you're joining us from. We have a really interesting topic today of how students can use social media for meaningful learning experiences. So we're looking forward to discussing that with you. So today we have a little bit of a different structure that we're testing out for the first time. So we'll have 3 sections of this live stream that will be define, create, and reflect. So going through the creative process, in particular to social media for students today. So for those of you who I haven't met before, my name is Clara Galan. I manage our educator community programs here at Adobe, so building networks of educators all across the world to connect with one another. And I'm joined here today by my co-host, Tanya. I'll hand it off to you.
Hey, everybody. I'm so excited to see so many people joining live. Please go ahead and introduce yourself inside the chat wherever you are joining us from. Just let us know, like, where are you joining from today? We have a global audience, so it's really cool to see who you are. I'm joining you today from not so sunny Florida. It's actually really, really dark, but I'm super excited about our guest today. Social media and teaching kids how to have better skills around how they can express themselves and tell better stories is a huge passion of mine. So having Dr. Freiburg on our call today, on our session today, is extremely exciting. So, Clara, do you want to kind of kick it off?
Sure, perfect. So, Dr. Freiburg, Karen, I'll have you introduce yourself really quick so those who are joining in can get a better sense of the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much, Clara and Tanya, for inviting me. And I'm really honored and excited to be here on the live streaming show. My name is Karen Freiburg, and I'm an associate professor in strategic communications at the University of Louisville in Louisville, Kentucky, which is actually pretty sunny today. Louisville, Kentucky, of course, is home to a lot of different things like, horses for the Kentucky Derby, bourbon, fried chicken, all that good stuff. So while I'm at U of L, I teach primarily in our strategic communications sequence, and mostly that comes down to social media classes. So I love talking text, social, digital, coffee, which of course I have on hand for this wonderful live streaming show. And so I'm, again, really honored to be here.
Well, thank you so much, Karen, for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. And I know there's been a lot of transitions at the University of Louisville lately. So how has it been working with students, working with colleagues, as so many are moving more and more to an online environment?
Yeah, it's been really exciting to be part of the digital transformation at the University of Louisville. So I've been at U of L now for 9 years, primarily was hired on to create a social media class. And so I launched my first social media class back in 2013, and that really was kind of the catapult that really brought forth this movement in terms of really embracing social digital in the classroom. And my goal as a professor has always been to bridge academia with industry. I'm very much an applied researcher. I try to give my students as much real world experience as possible because that's what the industry is expecting. So we have real clients. I bring in a ton of guest speakers. And so that has kind of continued the momentum. And I'm really excited to be able to show some of the work that we've done in class later on in the show. And so what we've also experienced, this year related to COVID-19 is we've all kind of gone online for the remainder part of the spring 2020 semester. But still, the students really thrived. And I feel that's been such a rewarding experience to, mentor, teach, and help the future generation kind of get a window into this wonderful field of social media where they're really able to build skills, get certified in various tools and platforms, get, industry level experience working with clients, to actually do social, not just talk about social, but also get the great hands-on experiences of formulating their personal brand, which is, again, something that's near and dear to my heart that as more continues to be an important asset that everyone needs to be able to have. So I'm really grateful to have had some incredible students over the years in my classes. The colleagues have been great at U of L. We have great leadership. So it's been a really wonderful place to be at.
that's awesome. And I mean, social media now more than ever is definitely like so important. I'm like, what role has does social media kind of play in your class, and how has that look like now that everything has kind of gone remote? Like what are kids doing? Like what is that's happening?
Absolutely. And so that's one of the things that I think has been great about social media is that it's constantly changing. And that's both a benefit and also a challenge, is that you have to keep up with the trends to kind of see what's going on. And there's been times where I've been in class where I'm like, I have this great lecture on Vine. And then Twitter is like, sorry, guys, rest in peace, Vine. We're getting rid of it. And you're like, okay, plan B, you got to adapt and be agile. And so I think that what I've tried to do in my classes is to definitely emphasize the major tools and the benefits of them, like tactics, like how to create a Facebook ad, how to do an Instagram story. So I think there's basic tactical levels that you need to be aware of, but I really try to emphasize with my students the how and why we use these platforms, because human behavior, strategies, goals, storytelling, some of those universal principles are still going to be relevant. How you communicate, how you build relationships, the tools are going to change, but the mindset, like really coming up with that strategic mindset of how and why you purposely use certain platforms for a specific reason is still relevant. And so right now, what we've been dealing with right now, like in light of COVID-19, a lot of my students come to me and they're like, Dr. Freiburg, we're looking for jobs. We're looking for internships. All of our internships have gone remote or they've been canceled. How do I use these tools to better myself and kind of stand out? And so I've really tried to emphasize that the work that they've done remotely, whether it's with team calls, Zoom collaborations, presentations, digital workshops, all of these skills, they can absolutely market themselves because everyone's going remote. This is not just one geographical challenge or one thing that's higher ed is doing. Every aspect of education is experiencing this. Every country is experiencing this. So
industry as well, right? Like look where we are. Claire and I started this show 9 weeks ago, and as a direct response to like, we're not talking to schools, we're not talking to teachers, like how can we get our message across? Right. And like now turning to social media is everything for everybody. And so I think this is such an important topic right now. Like, I mean, like, because this is everything. And this is what we've been saying for so long. And now I think people are starting to realize like, well, social media is not just where I post about what I ate today and take a picture of it. Like there are so many more important, like there's so much more I can do with it now.
100%. 100%. I mean, and I think that's really something too. When my students come into my classes, they're thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to learn how to snap, make a filter, pose with a dog, filter on Snapchat. I'm like, well, wait, okay. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that, but really kind of utilizing it professionally and really kind of showing the benefits of it. And so I'm a big believer of showing the students that not only am I their professor, but I try to basically do what I'm basically preaching to them. It's like saying, okay, here's what I've been able to do with these platforms. And I work with them on every single assignment. So if I'm asking them to do a personal brand audit, I'm doing it along with them so they can see that this is not just a busy work assignment. This is something that's essential for every person across the board. And so there's so many opportunities. It's just taking the initiative and just saying, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to invest myself. I'm going to be my best advocate. I'm going to be using these tools to make my dreams come true.
Yeah. And speaking about some of those skills, what are some of the skills that you've seen in the current landscape in terms of workforce? So especially in light of so many companies moving to online environments. First off, what have you seen kind of in terms of industry trends? And then what are some of the skills that you've been refining with your students to make sure that they're ready for these new opportunities?
Absolutely, Claire. Like that's a great question. And I feel that there's going to be some universal like skills that everyone's going to need to have. Like I think at working in social, like writing, research, creativity, digital literacy, all of those have been kind of standard pre-COVID-19. Now, when you're looking at not only having those fundamental skills that every communication professional needs to have, you also need to be agile. You need to be willing to adapt at a moment's notice. And so I kind of view this as kind of like a running back at a football team. It's like, if you see people coming to you one way, you have to move quickly to be able to kind of adjust. And so being agile, being responsive, and I think too, the willingness to persist in learning new skills and being willing to also share and educate other people, because this is a whole new world that I've told my students, like everyone, as Tanya, you've mentioned, everyone is going remote. And so everyone's searching for information like, okay, how do I set up a work from home setup? Like, how do I do an effective conference online? What are the things that I can do for a workshop? So there's a lot of these inquiries. So I tell my students, like, these are opportunities for content creation and being a thought leader in this. If you have experienced it yourself in your classes, the do's and don'ts, the pros and cons, you can actually utilize this as content creation. I also feel too that, being agile in the digital literacy is more important than ever. I'm really proud and excited that, of course, Adobe has been such a leader in this industry of really promoting that aspect. And I think that is more important than ever, being skilled with the various tools that are available, social, digital, web, across the board, but really having the natural comfortability of understanding when and where to use these tools and how and why we can use them strategically to kind of build communities, build relationships, share content, establish our brand online. There's a lot of things that kind of fall into that realm.
I mean, I think this is such a great opportunity to share with people who are watching some of the resources maybe that you have or that you've kind of collected, in your role at the University of Louisville. Would you like to share some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually wrote related to the new skills, the new marketable skills that are available right now for basically students and professionals in the field. I actually wrote an Adweek article kind of talking about those new words. And so this basically published actually yesterday. And so it kind of outlines kind of the major things that we're talking about today with where students, educators, and professionals need to have, in light of what's going on in COVID-19. So it basically covers being adaptive to digital resources, to being agile, digital literacy, of course, had to highlight, the great work Adobe is doing, being creative, critical thinking. So this was basically a great opportunity to be able to write for Adweek on some of these skills that I think are necessary. But I've talked a little bit about the certifications that are listed. And so these are, again, resources that I use in my classes, especially for students who want to go into social media, Facebook Blueprint, Twitter, Flight School, HubSpot Academy, so Google, we have so many different resources at our fingertips. And I feel more than ever, we're all in the same boat. We all have to be, willing to help and mentor others. And so the better that we all can go forward, the more, successful we're going to be and, overcoming these challenges. And so I think it's really important to be an open book when it comes to resources.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think now is a great opportunity to get creating. What do you guys think?
Creating. Awesome.
Creating. So as we mentioned, we've reformatted the way that we're kind of doing things on our live stream. And so if you're used to coming in and to our sessions, you'll notice that now we're going to have a create component. And what we want you to do right now is get ready to create. And so Karen's going to walk you through a really awesome hands-on activity that you can participate in. So I think, what do they need to have?
So really what you guys will need to have is we will be utilizing Adobe Spark. So Adobe Spark has 3 products and tools, so you have Page, you have Post, and you have Video. We're going to work on Page. So that is the website. So what I'm going to be doing is I'll be sharing my screen. And so I will be able to get access to that. And so what I'm actually going to do is I am going to walk you through a couple of examples, and one of the things that I love about Adobe Spark is the fact that there's so many opportunities to create things on social. So what I want to do is kind of highlight some examples and then basically highlight, kind of a walkthrough, of how you could use Adobe Spark Page to set up really like a portfolio for your personal brand. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. And so right now, what I wanted to kind of share with you is a student example of a portfolio. So with Natalie, so Natalie is one of my students. She basically has a Freiburg minor at the University of Louisville. She's taken 4 classes from me. And so what she's doing is she's applying for jobs, but she's utilizing Adobe Spark Page to showcase her social media work. So she has her title page, her samples. So really, this is so much, visually stimulating, compared to like saying, okay, here's my resume, here's my cover letter, that's in black and white. I love black and white because it's part of U of L colors, but when it comes to resumes, I'm like, we need to have a little pizzazz. So what she's been able to do is highlight some of the work that she's been able to do, like both for
I think you need to share your screen. I love live streams. Anything.
For some reason, Chrome is saying that I lost my, opportunity. So
that's okay.
I post it in the chat. I can just put it up here.
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry about that. So what I'll actually do. Okay. So let's see. How about? Okay. So I'm going to do. Love technology. So what I'll do is actually go through the activity with, basically what I'm doing. So one of the things that I've used for Adobe Spark with my students is really a personal branding exercise, kind of saying, how would you best tell your story? So for those of you that, are familiar, this is a Spark page. So what I love about this is that it basically is a responsive website that you're able to do a variety of different things. So one of the things that I wanted to do here in this kind of create aspect is to basically create something very quickly. I'm kind of thinking of this as like the 280 character tweet version of creating Adobe Spark. But if there's questions, if you have comments, if there's things that I can answer, ahead of time, let me know. So the first thing you want to do in terms of setting your personal brand is really like, what do you want people to pay attention to? So basically I have my name and I have kind of like my common slogan that I basically have here, is professor, author, consultant, coffee fan. I love coffee. And you really want to kind of humanize your first impressions, especially if you're utilizing this for a personal brand activity, because you want to kind of show how you, as a student, as a professor, as a rising professional, or individual in society, how you're basically creating standing out for yourself. So I put a picture of myself. This is Rosie, one of our Australian shepherds. And this is very easy to kind of create. And I really feel that Adobe Spark page does a really good job. And so what I also have here, one of the cool things that I really recommend looking and considering, especially working with students and even thinking about this for yourself is really, looking at your brand kit, so for Adobe Spark page and a post and video, you're able to create a brand for yourself. And for personal branding, with students, like I really emphasize this is basically saying, okay, what's your brand colors? What are some colors that you really resonate with? So for me, I love kind of the purple maroon colors. And so you can kind of see that in the image that I have here. So that's the thing that I've posted here. But what you want to do is you want to have a headline, but I usually have text at the bottom that basically highlights, who you are. And so this would be like your purpose or vision statement. And what I like about having this here is it clearly articulates what you want to do. And what I also feel that Adobe Spark really, does really well is that you're able to kind of include multimedia in it. So you can include videos, you can include images. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be covering and, basically highlighting an image. So here with Adobe Page, you want to make things visual. Again, like the thing about Adobe Spark Page is that it's very visual, very interactive. And so this is actually a picture of my oncoming book. So my purpose, statement is to make an impact in the industry, so I could write about that. I could talk a little bit about that. But, this is something too that you can kind of walk through. You can have a purpose statement. And then for a personal branding standpoint, if you want to, for example, highlight, various links to various articles that you've written, or if you have students that want to, cite or connect other additional pieces of content that are on the web, you can do that. So I'm going to basically, attach my blog. And this is important too, because you want to kind of be utilizing your Spark page as kind of a connective, outlet where you are able to kind of show people like the various touch points that you have on social. So you can have blogs, you can have websites, you can have videos, you can have all sorts of things. All you do here is add a button, and here's my blog. I can just basically share the link here and, copy there, and then you create a button. So what you want to do is, and again, I have a kind of an assignment that I go through, and I have the students say, okay, what's your purpose statement? What are the areas that you're interested in? What have you done in terms of your work, to kind of basically tell your story, to be your best advocate. And so there's a lot of different formats in which you can kind of focus on videos, text, more photos. If you want to do like a photo grid, like if I wanted to upload a couple of other images, I'm able to. I'm just going to upload a couple here to kind of illustrate, some of the opportunities. So this is a screenshot of my work. So if I wanted to talk about the work that I've done, I'm able to do that. And so I know this is kind of a quick and simple, kind of things, but there's so many things that, we are able to use Adobe Spark for. But I'd be open to share additional resources. And I know that Tanya and Clara, I've also shared some additional pieces of work that my students have done. So they did everything from influencer marketing audits, presentations to clients, and recaps for events that they've covered on social.
I love this. So Karen and I spoke yesterday, and I taught, for those of you who don't know, I taught personal branding and digital communication last year, but to high school students. And so when I, now I'm watching this and I'm thinking great minds think alike, because last year I had my students do that, but in high school. And so I actually have an example of a student's, so this is Christian Doller. I got permission from his parents yesterday. They were so excited that I was going to share his Twitter on the show today. But if you go over and visit Chris's profile, I got the kids to create their profiles, and then they created right over here their Spark page. And just like what you're saying, Chris put this together last year. He's a sophomore. Last year he was a freshman, and Chris is an amazing soccer player. And I mean, this is a 14-year-old who's thinking about his brand and how he's going to be seen and what his message is. And so we were talking about, using hashtags and tweeting out to colleges and scouts. And so that's what he does. If you go through, you'll see there's a lot of that he's thinking about in his Twitter account. And what's really cool about this, he created a brand and his logo, and he has an introduction video, and he's sharing his story of his passion for soccer and his dreams and aspirations of where he wants to go. A 14-year-old, but as someone who's if I was a scout, or if I was a future employer, or if I'm thinking about hiring somebody and I'm going to Google them one day, it's not if, it's when they are Googled, doesn't matter if you're in college, doesn't matter where you are, you're going to be Googled for your future job. How are you telling, and that's what I say to the kids, how are you telling your story? Who is telling your story, and how do you want to be remembered? And so this is all part of what you're saying. And I think the whole idea of having a page that you can easily, and guys, this is super, Karen just showed you in 4 seconds, while she was talking on a live stream, how easy it is to pull together. I think there's something super powerful about that ability to just tell your story. All right. So I remove that, but thank you, Karen, and I'd love for those of you who are watching, do this, create your story, because if you're not going to tell your story, someone else is going to tell that story for you. You want to be the driver of your story. It doesn't matter if you're in 9th grade or if you're 50 years old. Right now, it's not too late to tell your story. Okay, I'm done.
No, I 100% agree. And I think more important than ever, this is the time. This is the time. Everyone's online. Everyone is basically attached to their phones, that they are literally consuming so much content. And, you know, you have to be your best advocate. You have to basically tell your story. Because, I mean, if you wait around for someone else to do it, you might miss opportunities. And so I'm very grateful for having, you know, for Adobe, for creating these tools that are very seamless, very easy. And I joke with my students that, you know, graphic design does not come naturally for me. You know, it's taken a lot of practice and training, but if I can do it, they can too. And so they've really, I've shared some examples of, you know, if you guys would be interested, there's just so many ways in which you can utilize Adobe Spark amongst all the other Adobe products to be effective with virtual branding.
And I think it's telling their story in a visually compelling way. Like whether it's instead of having a term paper, you could have a Spark page that comes to life and is very visual and visually compelling.
Yeah. Well, and right now, like our students are like, if they have access, obviously, you know, there's an equity issue and we want to be really sensitive to that. And I mean, you're working in higher ed. We also have K-12 teachers that watch. There's definitely that component. And so I always say, like, you know, if there is the ability, if there is the access, if there is the buy-in, I see actually this question from Alicia. I'm going to post it. Okay. So, Alicia or Alicia, I'm not sure how you pronounce your name. So you'll have to excuse me. And I love her. She's always posting such great stuff.
I know.
I don't know you personally, but you're a rock star. So she wrote, I love this. My question is, how did you navigate encouraging social media with younger students who would need parent permission? Then all of them could participate. So I'll just address that really quickly. So I taught in a really progressive school, and this class I actually didn't create. It had existed prior to me joining the faculty last year. And so the culture in the school was that this is modern day digital citizenship, when students were participating in this, like this class is mandatory for high school graduation. This is at North Broward in Broward County in Florida. So at this particular school, this is part of the fabric of the school. And so I think it's really about developing that culture, and that existed. And so like parents come to the school, part of the selling point of the school, and it's a private school. So I'll just also say that was that their kids are going to leave with these marketable skills that, like Dr. Freiburg, who's, you know, doctor at a university is teaching, and it's progressive there. So I think that that's part of that conversation that we have to have with parents. And I think hopefully moving forward, Dr. Freiburg, Karen, like this is going to be a new normal.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, that they're going to see the value of that.
Absolutely. And I would also kind of add too, that there's so many, you know, training resources out there for parents to kind of look at, to kind of make sure that you are kind of understanding like the overall kind of ecosystem for social. And so I've met with parents at all ages, you know, before too, and I've reassured them, like, there's a lot of resources out there for how to basically utilize social media proactively. I always tell them, like, yes, there is that dark side. You have to be aware of the, you know, challenges that social media raises, but universally there's so many tools, so many certifications, so many trainings that are available.
Benefits of the kids, like we shield them, but then they go off on TikTok, they go off doing stuff. Like, we're not building their digital presence. We're helping them by telling them they can't be on it. If anything, we need to engage in this conversation to do it in a safe and responsible way, but then teach them how to use it to their advantage. Like that, you know, I'll get off my soapbox, but like I really believe in this. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that brings us to our reflect portion. So we defined, then we created together, and now we're going to reflect. So that whole part of the creative process. So for those who are watching live, we have a reflection question for you to continue the conversation. So we encourage you to post in the comments. So whether you're joining us on Facebook or Twitter, please respond to the main prompt. But what are some opportunities that can arise for students who are using social media? So what do you see would be an opportunity? And Karen, I'll ask you that question. You know, what are some opportunities that you think can arise for students using social media?
I think that it opens up the door to so many possibilities for internships. Like, I've been teaching social media for a long time now, and literally all of the students that have gotten some incredible jobs have all done it through social media, whether it's networking with someone on Twitter, sending a DM on, Instagram, or basically, doing a whole video. Like, I had a student that was applying for a job that created a whole Snapchat filter to be used in a geolocation where that particular job was located. So it was like, oh yeah, pull Snapchat. Like, here's my filter saying to hire me. And so the students,
awesome.
and they got the job. They got the job like that. And so I feel that the students, if they understand the tools, like, there's so many people that are looking, again, for professionals who know the how and why and strategic mindset of using social. But one of the things that I've told the students is that, yes, we're talking about more corporate branding practices in my classes, but you are your brand. Like, why can't you use the same strategies for marketing to, like, a company like Facebook or Breeders' Cup for yourself? And so the students really are like, yeah, I can do that. So I've had students, like, I had one student a few years ago, Samantha, who's one of my, best students that I've ever had. She got an internship with Team USA to work as part of the Team USA social media team for the Rio Olympics because of Twitter. Like, I look at Twitter as being a great networking opportunity. It's underutilized. I call it my digital Rolodex for contacts. And literally, if the students understand networking, forming relationships, making contacts, being present in the industry, contributing, having a voice, understanding your personal brand, like, the world is open to them. Like, there's so many possibilities. And I love, like, I have these proud prof moments. I do a hashtag proud prof, whenever I hear these stories for students. So social media has, I think, also leveled the playing field. It's really kind of broken down the barriers that you've seen in some gatekeeping kind of circumstances for job applications and internships. So students at all levels can basically say, you know what? I'm going to use this strategically. I'm going to stand out from the crowd, and I'm going to get this job and fulfill my dreams.
I love that. I see we have some, ways to generate new ideas and ideation.
Yes. Hi, Dennis. Nice to see you.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Dennis. And I see Tim. Yes, I've had students get internships and jobs from social media, as well as support and advice.
Yes.
And at the very least, it causes them to be creators and think critically and not just merely copy. Oh, so yes. And it gives them an audience, like it gives them an authentic space to have a voice and to do more than. In my class, it was, is it good enough to go on social media? I didn't care about the. Were you proud enough about your work so that you wanted to share it with the world? Did you want to publish it? Like, it's like, and that was like that literally was what drove everything in my class. Because, like, I don't care about grades. Yeah. How are you creating something that is going to be seen? I love it.
And I think, too, with students, too, they need to have the confidence that their voice is important, that it matters, it's unique. And I feel that, like, that's been a big thing that I think students at all levels need to be confident in, is that if you're trying to be like everyone else, you're missing the boat, because you are special. You have such a unique story, and you have to be your best advocate in sharing your story. I mean, it just takes that initiative. It's just that first step. If you create your first post, if you create your first video, like, if you continually, work on that, that's great. And I kind of look at it from like an athlete standpoint, like Tanya, like, as you mentioned with your example as a soccer player and, kind of branding themselves. I feel like if you do a little bit every day, you get better and you kind of build upon the skills and networking, and people are like, wow, like, you're doing some great things on social. I'm going to pay attention to you. This is wonderful. And it just takes time and just kind of, I think, mentoring and helping each other. And that is really important.
Well, and another piece of advice I'll give young creators who might be watching this is reach out to people who are already doing successful things. Like, I think people don't realize that, like, especially when you're in school still, like, people want to mentor you. Like, who wants to help you? I say this to my students all the time, and people will reach back to you. It's amazing. Like, I think people think, like, oh, I can't do that. And then they do, and they're like, wait, what? This person tweeted me back. Like, they ask for a meeting. Like, they will meet with you. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
exactly. And you just never know. Like, I've had so many industry contacts, like, that have literally been like, I want to hear from students. I want to help. And it's like, oh, this is like, as an educator, this is music to my ears. And some of the brands that, like, you would think, oh my gosh, like, they're never going to be responding. Like, they are right there. And I'm just like, I have a list of brands that I'm like, these are like my faves just because they're so committed to helping students get a foot in the door in the field, like Chipotle, Aviation Gin, which of course everyone knows from Ryan Reynolds, who's amazing. And just there's so many brands that are willing to be there. It's just for us, I mean, this is kind of my call for educators. Like if you're utilizing social media in your classes, reach out to the brands, reach out to the companies and say, look, this is what I'm doing. And so that's kind of what I've been trying to do, is trying to bring in the industry in the class and say, hey, we're here, so we'd love to have you as part of the conversation, to build part of the community, to create that win-win situation. And that could be happening at all levels. And so it's really coming down to building those communities and relationships on the platforms digitally.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the same for teachers too. If there's, companies that you're interested in, or you're using those products in the classroom, companies want to hear from you. So it's so easy to be able to reach out on social. Also if students are on the student side, if students are studying a specific individual, like that's an open channel. You can ping them on Twitter. You can start following them on Instagram. And a lot of times they want to connect with students and they want to share their story and mentor. So definitely. But Karen, thank you so much for joining us today. I always feel like every time I talk to you, I learn so much. But any last, words of advice or resources that you want to share for those who are tuning in?
Yeah, no, I'm really honored to be part of this. And this was so much fun. I enjoy talking with you both so much, Tanya and Clara. And I just am very grateful for what you guys are doing at Adobe, for really empowering not only the future generation of students, but also educators, and really helping us kind of really become advocates for the next wave of education professionals and professionals in creativity and digital literacy. In terms of resources, I actually have a list that I'd be happy to share out that could be, disseminated. But like, I am a big fan of course, looking at industry reports. There's also people that I look to on social for cutting edge trends. Like I literally follow Taylor Lawrence from the New York Times. Like she has her hand on the pulse on everything related to Gen Z influence, tech, so if you are looking at one person to kind of follow what your students are probably listening to or doing on TikTok or any of the other platforms, she's there. But I also follow Matt Navarra, who is in the UK. He pretty much is like on top of things with latest trends on platforms. So I try to follow both of those individuals to kind of see what's happening for, the upcoming generation. Because my students who are Gen Z are like, oh, Dr. Freiburg, you're a millennial, you're in a different generation. I'm like, hey, I'm not that old. I'm vintage, but not that old. But I look at Matt Navarra, just to kind of see, okay, what things do I need to update before I get into my class, so I don't go in and say, oh, this platform is no longer there. So those are two resources. But I'd be happy to, for any educators out there, teachers, students, if anyone is interested in, more information, I'd be happy to connect on social and provide any more resources that way too.
Yeah, and I will post the notes in this chat. I've been meaning to do that, so they're actually up to date. So I will post the notes from that I received from Karen. I consolidate them, and I will post them inside the Facebook chat strand. Well, this has been really, really awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. I want to remind people that we will be back for Teacher Appreciation. We have been having these amazing kickback and chill creative break parties with some of our evangelists and some really creative, amazing teachers. So we actually have Terry White coming up on Tuesday at 3:00 Eastern, and he's going to be teaching a class on how to take better profile pictures. And just like it's meant to just be like looking at like photography and how we can take better pictures and maybe better selfies, and just kind of like just thinking about self-care and things that we've been wanting to do. And it's meant to be fun. So come and get ready to learn from a real Adobe master. And that will be at 3:00 on Tuesday.
Eastern time.
Yes. And then we're back next week, right, Clara? And who do we have next week?
And we'll be back next week at 12:30 p.m. Pacific. So I'll post in there the link to how you can join. But again, all you have to do is just go on to the Adobe for Education Facebook channel and Twitter channel, and we'll be live here every Thursday. Perfect. Well, thanks again. Happy Teacher Appreciation Month. And we will see you on Tuesday. Thanks again, Karen.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching. Click the link in the description below to explore more free online professional development, and click the link on screen to subscribe to the channel for more videos.